Enneagram 5s are driven to be competent and capable investigators, withdrawing into their minds in order to take refuge from the unpredictability of the world. 5s are inquisitive, clever, observant, pragmatic, and analytical. They are good at analyzing small details that most people overlook, and they have a gift for complex learning. However, the more time they spend in their minds, the less others can relate to or connect with them emotionally, which can leave the 5 feeling isolated and empty. Though 5s tend to be stereotyped as the insensitive genius, that doesn't mean they don't have feelings. Just the opposite. While 5s can appear detached and unfeeling on the outside, this trait reflects a deep, instinctive need to protect themselves from emotional pain, fearing that the more they open up to others, the less they'll have for themselves. Because of this, 5s may have less ability to cope with complicated emotions and may even struggle to communicate their true feelings with those they care about deeply. Today we are going to be discussing the Enneagram 5 personality type and how to use it when creating characters. Whether you're writing a novel, short story, screenplay, video game, or any expression of story, the Enneagram is an ancient philosophy connecting human behavior with human beliefs, and it has been an absolute game changer for me as a writer. So if you want your characters to be more flawed, conflicted, relatable, and human, keep watching. This is part 5 of a 9-part video series breaking down the Enneagram. Welcome back. If you're new here, I'm Abby, and I help writers make their stories matter and make their author dreams come true. And if that's something you're on a mission to do, you're going to want to subscribe to this channel because I would love to have you here in the community. The overarching fatal flaw for the type 5 is, I don't need anyone's help or comfort. 5s live in their minds more than any other Enneagram type. They fiercely protect their sensitive inner core by constructing intellectual walls to keep the world at a distance. Type 5s are highly selective about who they let into their lives. While they typically don't have a lot of friends, the friendships they do form are incredibly loyal, deep, and trustworthy. They typically limit their social interactions as a self-protective measure, viewing unnecessary social contact as a potential drain on their mental and emotional resources. So instead of seeking comfort through people, 5s channel their need for connection through acquiring knowledge. They build their internal support system through learning, gathering information, and understanding how things work, and establishing firm boundaries. They'd rather observe than participate, and they often feel safer in their mind palace than navigating the unpredictable waters of social interactions. For a 5, knowledge isn't just power, it is the most reliable and satisfying form of power. Because of their super analytical minds, 5s usually spend a lot of time pursuing intellectual interests. They can sometimes seem like walking encyclopedias of specialized knowledge, putting their gifts for learning to good use. However, living in their head comes at a cost. Unknowingly, they push people away and gradually become less capable of communicating or relating to others. The greatest vice for a type 5 is greed. 5s don't necessarily have a burning desire to hoard money or possessions or valuables, but they hold tightly to the things they do have, usually due to earlier life experiences when they felt like they didn't receive enough from others. When a 5 doesn't get enough love, care, or attention at a young age, they develop this deep intrinsic fear of being depleted. This creates a defensive expectation that they will always lack, which causes them to minimize their needs and withhold themselves from others. In their minds, giving even a little means risking everything they have. Many 5s report early childhood experiences where they either felt completely ignored or smothered with attention at crucial developmental stages. When this happens, they adapt, retreating into their minds and vowing to never need anyone again.
Someday you're gonna be all alone. So you need to figure out how to take care of yourself.
It's their superpower and their kryptonite wrapped up in one. At their core, 5s operate from a scarcity mindset. When they don't get what they need, they don't demand more, they simply adapt so that they need less. They minimize their needs and requirements and instead build up fortresses of self-sufficiency. This is why 5s can sometimes come across as cold or distant, but don't be fooled. Beneath that cynical, competent exterior lies an incredibly sensitive soul who feels things deeply, but protects themselves fiercely. 5s are greedy in that they become tight-fisted with their time, energy, emotions, and resources. When you constantly feel one breath away from depletion, you naturally withdraw from people, conflicts, and situations that might drain you even more. They're kind of like a cactus. Prickly on the outside because they are protecting a precious resource on the inside from being plundered by others. And this isn't to say emotional detachment is always a bad thing. It's not always a bad thing. Sometimes it can be a good thing, especially if you need to focus on the logical, rational solution to a problem, and you need to be the one who is not emotional in a situation where something's going wrong.
Well, caring about them helps save them.
Nope.
Then I'll continue not to make that mistake.
And you find that easy, do you?
Yes, very.
But here's the problem. Over time, this detachment can lead to a complete inability to feel any emotions at all, especially as 5s prize thinking over feeling and tend to push their emotions under the rug. In short, the 5s' driving internal conflict is their desire to acquire knowledge and feel capable, cultivating a safe bubble of reality where they can withdraw from the world, protect their energy, and make sense of unpredictability. Okay, now let's look at some of the character strengths and weaknesses of the Type 5. First, self-sufficiency. Thanks to their superpower for learning and their second nature ability to withdraw into their minds, 5s become incredibly self-sufficient at a young age. They're the kids who can play by themselves for hours and never get bored. While this self-sufficiency makes them more effective and productive, it can also push people away. It can make other people feel like they're not wanted or needed by the super capable 5 who can handle everything on their own.
Rache, German for revenge. She could be trying to tell us
Yes,
something.
thank you for your input.
Another strength and weakness is emotional detachment. While other Enneagram types have to consciously check out of their emotions, 5s do this on autopilot. They view uncomfortable feelings as an energy drain, so they fly above all of that turbulence and conflict and just kind of keep it at a distance. The downside is that 5s often become strangers to their own emotions, which makes them particularly uncomfortable when they're faced with other people's emotional intensity and they have no idea what to do with it. When someone's having a meltdown, the 5 is the first one looking for the exit. It's also important to note that 5s can be so emotionally detached that they sometimes say things that come off sounding rude or unfeeling, but they don't even see it that way. They just see it as like, this is a fact. These are just facts. It's like they lack the ability to sugarcoat what they're trying to say and make it more palatable for other people so that they don't hurt anybody's feelings.
Even you just said I have agreeable features.
But they're more than agreeable, provided the light hits you just so.
Can I ask what time of day that might be?
Dusk. You're prettiest at about 8:20 in the summer when the light is fading.
Oh, I see. The light must be fading so that I'm not too visible.
Exactly.
Another strength is intellectual depth. 5s have an insatiable thirst for knowledge, but it's not just about learning cool facts and trivia and being smarter than everyone. It's more about a survival strategy. They're constantly prepping for life, stockpiling information and knowledge because they never really feel quite ready to face the world. Emotions are tricky and chaotic and unpredictable, so 5s would rather live in their heads, where they can make sense of everything. They can create their own world where they are safe and where everything makes logical sense and follows predictable patterns.
I can control it, I can dominate it, and it's predictable. So if I get hurt, I only have myself to blame.
And lastly, hypersensitivity. 5s might seem cold, aloof, and unfeeling on the outside, but deep down, they're actually extremely sensitive people. Their emotional detachment isn't because they don't care, it's actually a really sophisticated defense mechanism. Contrary to popular belief, 5s can actually be very sensitive and emotionally open to other people that they trust, but it's rare. Most 5s just haven't developed the emotional muscles required to open up and feel safe exposing your vulnerabilities to other people. They're not sure how to share their feelings or even make sense of their feelings themselves, so it's much safer and more comfortable to just retreat into their minds.
Come on. Oh, what are you doing?
I call it the hug of friendship. See? Doesn't it feel good to open up?
No.
Because our personalities are so influenced by our past and the experiences that we went through as children, it's important to look to your character's past to see how they became the person they are today. So here are some common childhood conflicts that might shape a person into a type 5. Having parents who were emotionally unpredictable, leading to withdrawal as a defense mechanism. Experiencing a traumatic event that made the world feel unsafe and unpredictable. Growing up in an environment where intellectual achievement was valued over emotional expression. Having caregivers who invaded privacy or didn't respect boundaries. Experiencing ridicule or rejection when expressing emotions. Growing up in an environment of scarcity, emotional or material. Being abandoned, forcing them to rely on themselves in order to survive. Of course, other childhood conflicts could shape a person into a type 5, so this is not an exhaustive list, but it's a good place to start when developing your character to see how conflicts in the past have shaped them into the person they are today. Okay, now that we have a good understanding of the type 5, we're going to break it down even more into the 3 subtypes. In Enneagram philosophy, each of the 9 types has 3 subtypes based on primary instincts: self-preservation, social, belonging, and sexual or one-to-one bonding. Of course, everyone has all 3 of these instincts, but depending on which one is dominant, your personality will express itself very differently. Before I knew about the subtypes, I had only heard people talk about the Enneagram in terms of healthy, average, and unhealthy, but as I've said in previous videos, this seems like kind of a limiting view of personality. No one is 100% healthy or 100% unhealthy. We are all a mixture of good and bad, vices and virtues, strengths and weaknesses, and your character is no different. Maybe they're on a positive growth path where they are ascending towards a positive character arc, or maybe they're descending on a negative character arc and becoming the worst version of themselves. That's why I decided to take all 3 of the subtypes and explain them in a different way: the bright side and the shadow side. So we're gonna look at each subtype and explore both the vices and the virtues, the ways that your character could grow in a positive direction, or how their greatest weaknesses and shadow self could destroy them. First up, self-preservation 5s, the Mastermind, or the Recluse. On their bright side, self-preservation 5s are quick-witted and intense analysts who have a talent for demystifying the complex and building fortress-like boundaries to protect themselves from the world. They need a safe space they can control. Physical and emotional walls they can retreat behind when life gets overwhelming.
Shut up, everybody! Shut up! Don't move, don't speak, don't breathe. I'm trying to think. Anderson, face the other way. You're putting me off.
What? My face is?
These 5s are masters at creating safety bubbles where they have everything they need without having to venture into the outside world. Mastermind 5s struggle with expressing anger directly. Instead, they'll communicate frustration by simply withdrawing or being passive-aggressive. At their best, they possess a surprising warmth and humor that expresses their inner sensitivity and innate creativity. They are often gifted mathematicians, scientists, detectives, researchers, and strategists. When faced with a problem, they are the first to find multiple answers and approach the solution with laser-focused efficiency. A good character example of the Mastermind 5 is Sherlock Holmes. Intensely cerebral, emotionally detached, and fiercely protective of his inner world, Sherlock is a quintessential Mastermind 5. He builds metaphorical and literal walls around himself, retreating into the fortress of his mind palace, where logic reigns supreme and emotions are liabilities. He's undeniably brilliant when it comes to solving cases and demystifying complex clues that others overlook.
Look at the jumper he's wearing, hardly worn. Clearly he's uncomfortable in it. Maybe it's because of the material. More likely the hideous pattern suggests it's a present, probably Christmas. So he wants into his mother's good books. Why? Almost certainly money. He's treating her to a meal, but his own portion is small. That means he wants to impress her, but he's trying to economize on his own food.
However, despite his rapid-fire problem-solving skills, he keeps everyone at arm's length emotionally, shutting down any hint of vulnerability and disappearing whenever someone gets too close to his carefully guarded personal space.
Why would you listen to me? I'm just your friend. I don't have friends.
Though he rarely expresses anger directly, he can be cold and dismissive, using cutting wit and aloofness as a shield. Yet beneath the surface, there's a surprising depth of feeling, a quiet warmth that shines through in rare moments, especially in his loyalty to John Watson.
Oh, John, I envy you so much.
You envy me?
Your mind, so placid, straightforward, barely used.
Sherlock's life is a carefully constructed fortress where he can feel safe from the chaos of emotions while still using his intelligence, wit, and quick thinking to make a positive impact in the lives of others.
The combination to your safe, your measurements, but this is far more intimate. This is your heart, and you should never let it rule your head.
When the shadow takes over, however, self-preservation fives go from being the mastermind to the recluse. As the most withdrawn subtype, these fives have perfected the skill of renouncing needs and wants, especially when it comes to emotional support from relationships. They don't want to need anything or anyone. To them, every desire is a potential trap that could lead to dependency on others. Because of this, self-preservation fives typically get by with fewer resources, which often translates to living small or even poorly by others' standards. When they become overwhelmed by the demands of others, they often use their social shield to push people away and retreat deeper into their shell, self-sabotaging to prove that they don't need anyone else to survive. A good character example of this shadow side taking over is Ebenezer Scrooge from A Christmas Carol. Scrooge is possibly one of the most iconic fictional characters ever invented, so much so that his very name has become synonymous with the word greed. As a tight-fisted miser, Scrooge doesn't just hoard his wealth and resources, he also shuts out every spark of joy and human connection.
I want nothing from you. I ask nothing of you. Why can't we be friends?
You are wasting my time.
Scrooge is an illustration of the self-preservation five at their worst, showing no mercy to debtors, withdrawing from his own family, denying his employees time off to enjoy Christmas, and even refusing to heat his office because it will cost him money. However, through his encounters with the 3 Christmas ghosts, Scrooge eventually realizes that his greed and emotional detachment has cost him the greatest price of all: total exile from the love of others. When he witnesses the grim prospect of dying unmourned and unloved, Scrooge begins to transform from the inside out.
Say that I may change these things by an altered life. I will honor Christmas in my heart and try to keep it all the year. I will live in the past, present, and the future. The spirits of all 3 shall strive within me. I will not shut out the lessons that they teach.
He finally opens up his heart, sharing not just his wealth with those who need it, but also healing the relationships he previously sabotaged.
If the invitation to dine with you today is still in force, I accept.
Of course it's still in force. Hurrah!
Scrooge's character arc perfectly illustrates a Recluse Five's growth path, embracing life's possibilities, finding joy in human connection, and freely sharing their resources with others. Next up, Social Fives. The Philosopher, or the Cynic. Unlike the self-preservation five, who is focused on hoarding their resources and retreating into the safety of their mind, social fives are focused on finding the meaning in life and driven by the underlying fear that unless meaning is found, everything is meaningless.
Love is the one thing we're capable of perceiving that transcends dimensions of time and space. Maybe it's some evidence, some artifact of a higher dimension that we can't consciously perceive.
They spend a lot of time philosophizing and theorizing about things, eager to expand their knowledge, while at the same time stubbornly holding on to their often cynical views of the world.
Maybe she's the real thing. There is no real thing, Howard. It's all phony.
It's not that they're pessimistic, but they value cold hard facts and logic, which creates an interesting internal conflict as something in them hungers for the extraordinary. Philosopher 5s gravitate towards people who share their intellectual wavelength, values, and ideals. However, when they become too attached to these lofty ideas, they can develop a certain disdain for ordinary life and ordinary people, preferring the world of ideas over the tedium of everyday human existence.
What are you doing today?
I'm going bird watching with Bryce. Do you want to join us?
I can't think of a more inane activity, watching little winged creatures acting out nature's pointless busy work.
A good character example of the Philosopher 5 is Stanley from Magic in the Moonlight. Stanley is a successful magician with a rather bleak outlook on life, despite his fantastical performances.
You know, I don't know who I loathe more. Those who use simple tricks to prey on the gullible, or the gullible, who are so stupid they deserve what they get.
When he is asked by his friend and fellow illusionist Howard to debunk a young spiritualist named Sophie, Stanley jumps at the chance to expose yet another fake medium and reaffirm his misbelief that there is no such thing as true magic, spiritualism, or anything beyond the tangible world. However, after many failed attempts to prove Sophie is a fraud, the ever-cynical Stanley begins to fall in love with her and opens his mind to new possibilities. Slowly but surely, his grim outlook on life begins to change, until he makes a shocking discovery. Howard and Sophie have been secretly collaborating on an elaborate ruse to fool Stanley.
Sophie excused herself at my aunt's to make a telephone call. She called you, and you fed her information about my aunt.
In the end, Stanley forgives them both and proves that Sophie has changed him for the better. He doesn't completely depart from his reliance on logic, but he does begin to see that he can't always trust logic.
That the world may or may not be without purpose, but it's not totally without some kind of magic.
I have irrational positive feelings for Sophie Baker. It's like witnessing a trick I can't figure out.
Sophie's optimism, quick wit, and willingness to challenge him eventually makes Stanley realize that his cynicism has been an obstacle for true happiness. And there actually is some real magic in the world. Stanley's character arc illustrates what happens when a social 5 drops their intellectual armor and connects with others on a human level. They wake up to life in Technicolor. The world that once seemed flat and predictable suddenly becomes vibrant and full of possibilities they never noticed before.
You know, it's extraordinary. I have smelled these flowers 100 times, and yet I have never really smelled them until now.
When their shadow side takes over, however, social 5s go from being the philosopher to the cynic. Social 5s often hide from their feelings by being either enigmatic and mysterious or charming and intellectually stimulating, whatever keeps the focus off their emotions. They can wrap themselves in lofty spiritual or philosophical ideas that actually work against true wisdom because they're skipping over all the messy human stuff, like the vulnerability of admitting that they don't have all the answers.
Why would you come here to see me if you disagree so passionately with my views?
To make you realize that you're wrong.
These 5s might secretly believe they're above others because of their sophisticated worldview, though they'd never openly admit it. Unlike the reclusive self-preservation 5, social 5s are typically more willing to engage with others, though they'd keep the interactions safely in the realm of ideas rather than feelings. At their worst, cynic 5s lose all hope that life has meaning. Withdrawing into their shell of cynicism and mistrust, they convince themselves that others are only out to betray and hurt them, and therefore cut themselves off completely from the very emotional connections that could rescue them from darkness. A good character example of this shadow side taking over is Estella from Great Expectations. Raised by the cold and vengeful Miss Havisham, Estella grows up emotionally detached and intellectually sharp, embodying the social 5's tendency to live in their mind rather than the heart.
You don't speak correctly. I can hardly understand what you say. Why would I want to be friends with you?
She views emotional connection as dangerous and has been raised to believe that love is a lie.
What is beauty? A destroyer. What is happiness? Deception. What is love? Death.
Estella is taught to be desirable but untouchable, an instrument of justice that her adopted mother uses to get revenge for her own past heartbreak. Like many Cynic fives, Estella suppresses her emotions so much that she loses access to them.
I do not have a heart.
She becomes cold and calculating, using wit and beauty to assert power while quietly believing that she cannot be loved. Her relationship with Pip reflects the social five's struggle with intimacy and human connection. He offers love and vulnerability, but she cannot receive it. Not because she doesn't feel it, but because she doesn't know how to live in that emotional world.
Goodbye, Pip.
No, I won't let you do it.
I do not have a say in the matter.
I don't believe you. You kissed me.
I was practicing on you, as I was from the very beginning.
Her cynicism becomes her armor, and her misbelief leads her to marry the wealthy but cruel Bentley Drummel, who only makes Estella more miserable. After Drummel dies in an accident, Estella is given another chance at happiness with Pip, but the story is left open-ended for us to decide whether she can heal from her cynicism and past traumas to trust love again. And lastly, sexual fives, the Fantasizer, or the Possessor. While self-preservation fives are masters of hoarding their resources and knowledge, social fives are masters of philosophizing and seeking life's meaning, sexual fives are laser-focused on finding their sense of satisfaction in an ideal significant other. They are the counter-type of the other subtypes in that they place special value on intimate connections and often fantasize about finding that special someone they can connect with deeply, an idealized, perfect partner they haven't found yet.
Almost as soon as I entered the house, I singled you out as the companion of my future life.
While other fives tend to keep their emotions at arm's length, Fantasizer fives burn with intensity. They're romantic, emotionally sensitive, and surprisingly passionate beneath their icy, aloof armor.
We're one, you and I. We have to be together.
Because of this, they can sometimes mistype as fours. But unlike fours, Fantasizer fives don't wear their heart on their sleeve. They avoid casual relationships, holding out for that perfect person who truly understands them, someone they can trust and who will love them despite their flaws. A good character example of the Fantasizer 5 is Esther Denham from the BBC series Sanditon. Esther appears cold, aloof, and emotionally guarded, classic type 5. But beneath her Ice Queen facade burns an intense, hidden passion, which manifests in her obsessive attachment to her stepbrother Edward. Not related by blood, Esther has idealized Edward as her perfect partner, the one person she believes truly understands and accepts her. Together, they scheme to secure their great-aunt's inheritance, bound by shared ambition and what Esther believes is mutual devotion.
There is no one alive I love as much as you. Tell me you do not feel the same.
Of course.
But when Edward betrays her with another, Esther's fantasy of her perfect future begins to crumble. This betrayal confirms her deepest fears, that true connection is impossible, and that she was foolish to risk her heart. Enter Lord Babington, who has been quietly in love with Esther from the sidelines, patiently pursuing her despite being told to get lost, repeatedly.
Why do you persist when you are treated with so little civility?
Perhaps it's the fascination of what's difficult.
Her cutting wit isn't arrogance, but rather armor, protecting her wounded heart from further disappointment. What makes Esther's character arc so compelling is her gradual awakening to the possibility of real love. Babington doesn't idealize her, he sees her clearly, flaws and all, and loves her anyway.
Don't you know that I'm in love with you?
And what is that to me, since I do not love you?
I don't care. It's enough that you like me and that you trust me.
I do not wish to be your property.
Good. Because I have no wish to own you.
Esther's character arc comes full circle when she finally opens herself to Babington's love, illustrating the healthiest growth path for a sexual 5, moving from idealized fantasies to authentic connection based in honesty and trust. Her journey from being trapped in a toxic relationship to embracing genuine love shows us how Fantasizer 5s can heal and reconnect with their emotions. When their shadow side takes over, sexual 5s go from being the Fantasizer to the Possessor, fixating on the object of their desire to the point of delusion. The thing about this subtype is that they are all or nothing. These 5s live in an inner world that's bursting with dreamy fantasies about finding that perfect, unconditional love. But let's be real, they're chasing an idealized relationship that probably doesn't exist anywhere except in their imagination. They're not just looking for love, they're searching for their ultimate source of meaning in life through this perfect connection. This is why Possessor 5s are so picky about their relationships. And when they discover that their partner is, shocker, an actual human being with flaws and limitations, that's when deep frustration kicks in. At their worst, Possessor 5s can become disdainful of others for failing to meet their lofty standards and quite easily light switch off the relationship, detaching emotionally while burying their hurt and dissatisfaction under thick layers of ice. A good example of this shadow side taking over is Jim Preston from the film Passengers. The film begins on the starship Avalon, which is carrying thousands of passengers to a distant colony planet. When a glitch causes Jim to wake up 90 years early, he finds himself alone with no way to return to hibernation.
We will arrive in approximately 90 years.
I woke up too soon.
After a year of isolation, the loneliness becomes unbearable. At the end of his rope, he discovers Aurora Lane, a beautiful writer in hibernation, and quickly becomes obsessed with her. As he digs into her personal files and writings, he begins constructing a fantasy of who she is and faces the moral dilemma of waking her up. After months of debating, Jim's desperate need for connection wins. He sabotages her pod, then lies and tells her that it was a malfunction.
Are you saying nobody's awake?
Just me.
Just you?
It's just us.
Aurora eventually falls in love with Jim, and their relationship becomes everything Jim fantasized about: intimate, intense, and seemingly perfect. But when the truth is accidentally revealed by the ship's android bartender, Aurora is shocked and heartbroken.
Did you wake me up?
Yes, I woke you up.
How could you do it?
She sees Jim's actions for what they truly were, a violation that robbed her of her chosen future and autonomy.
Aurora, I don't want to lose you.
I don't care! I don't care what you want! I don't care why you woke me up! You took my life!
The film takes a redemptive turn at the end when a critical ship malfunction threatens everyone on board and Jim sacrifices himself to save Aurora and the other passengers. This selfless act shows Aurora just how much he cares about her, and in the end, she chooses to forgive him. While the film concludes in a happy ending, it still provides a powerful illustration of how the Possessor 5 can unintentionally sabotage their own relationships by clinging too tightly to a fantasy and robbing the other person of their freedom, all in the pursuit of idealized love. So if you're writing an Enneagram 5 character and you want to give them layered, believable internal conflict, here are some good brainstorm prompts to get you started. Ask yourself, what childhood conflicts did my character experience that made them mistakenly believe they had to withdraw to protect their inner resources? What does the idea of control mean to them? Was there a moment in their past when they suffered neglect, engulfment, or unpredictability from caregivers? How has their intellect helped them to build up emotional walls and protect themselves from pain? How do their weaknesses, emotional detachment, greed, fear of scarcity, trip them up and keep them from achieving true happiness? What is their fatal flaw or misbelief, and why is it personal to them? What ultimate truth or aha moment are they going to have in order to transform as a character? I've also created a companion guide to writing the Enneagram Type 5, which includes all of the brainstorm prompts, the descriptions of the subtypes, and all the character examples we talked about today. So if you want to grab that little booklet, I will leave the link below in the description. Remember, this is an ongoing series on my channel, and we still have 4 more Enneagram types to explore. So if you want to follow along and not miss any more episodes of this series, make sure you subscribe to this channel and smash that like button while you're down there. Also, comment below and tell me, are you writing an Enneagram 5 in your story, or are you an Enneagram 5? I would love to hear your thoughts on this whole topic. And if you missed the previous 4 videos I did in this series, you can check them out right here by clicking on this playlist. Don't forget to grab the Enneagram 5 booklet linked below, and I will see you in the next episode. Until then, my friend, rock on. Shh.